Students of Reddit, what is the craziest thing a teacher has done? Blasted Katy Perry at full volume to annoy the teacher next door. The other teacher opened the classroom door and yelled, "Do you want to see me cry?" Our history teacher was both an amazing comedian and an amazing teacher. Even the bad kids got generally good scores on tests. Chased me around the school with a ruler for saying "sea breeze" one too many times. Oh. Back when I was in kindergarten, the teacher would yell and scream at us. It's kindergarten, like, what do you expect? I remember in kindergarten, my teacher used to beat us. I was very young. I suppose she got fired. Not exactly crazy, but weird. At university, one of our teachers would put his jacket on his smart phone when it was ringing, instead of declining the call. He did that on 3 separate occasions. He didn't want to disrupt the class and didn't want to give other person notification he declined the call. I lived in Mexico. We had the same teacher for 1st and 2nd grade, almost 40 second graders in her classroom all day. We had pissed her off so much that day. She told us, "If you guys don't stop, I'm going to get my bag, lock the door, and leave." We didn't listen. This woman, who had been an elementary school teacher for almost 20 years, got so fed up she legit got her bag and left. She didn't lock the door, but we were all like 7, stunned at being left alone, and just stayed in that classroom for the last couple hours of school. My parents laughed. It was like 15 years ago, okay? And they trusted the teacher cause he was my dad's teacher in 5th grade. So yeah, we were abandoned by our teacher in the 2nd grade. To get her attention one day, a teacher threw a desk and chair at the blackboard. My teacher told us about her ex-life for some reason. Some of the more annoying students kept asking her more questions. I just cringed. I had a young physics teacher who told us about how her poly relationship with 2 guys started in college. And that was how she introduced herself to us on day 1. She was new, too, so I've no idea how she kept her job. It probably helped she was hot and the majority of the administration was middle-aged men. One of my teachers just recently got exposed for being a creep and asking minors to drop by his room after school. Said things like, "You can just fake a stomach cramp and come by to see me." It just creeps me out, because this guy was my physics teacher, so it feels even weirder that I was this creep's student. I also am probably going to be his student again this year since he didn't get fired. Back in middle school, we were on a field trip and riding on the bus into Chicago. The drive from our school to Chicago is only about 35-40 minutes, but traffic that day was really bad and us students were getting restless. Our social studies teacher was already on edge after one student threw a plastic bag of pee at the bus driver and she looked like she was due for a breakdown. The students eventually started singing songs to pass the time. We started with some simple ones like "We Will Rock You" and "Sweet Caroline," and the teachers didn't mind that. But then we all started singing "Colt 45" by Afro Man. And not only did we start singing it, but some students stood up in their seats and started dancing and making crude gestures. Our social studies teacher stood and shouted, "Everyone sit the frick down." That shut us up and she started screaming about turning the bus around and canceling the field trip. It was dead silent for a few seconds after that. But then one random student's voice just said "bitch," and that caused the teacher to snap. She tried to grab for the steering wheel, and when the bus driver tried to control her, she turned on him and started scratching, slapping, and kicking him. Keep in mind that this was happening while the bus was still driving and the other teachers had to restrain the social studies teacher. The bus driver stopped. The cops were called and the teacher was taken away. That was the last time any of us saw her. On the bright side, we still went on the field trip to Shed Aquarium and it was a lot of fun. I got to pet a dolphin. She duct taped a student to his chair one time and threatened to do it to others. Would often leave to go to Dunkin' Donuts for coffee and would tell us to keep our heads down and that she had cameras all over the room so she'd know if we moved a single inch. Punishment usually being she would duct tape us to our chairs, regularly hit us with a ruler and other stuff. She was gone about a month in, and I later found out she had been charged with all the stuff she did and was sentenced to a psychiatric hospital where she died about 3 months later. I never found out what caused her death. The head of the French department held ex-parties and used the school-headed paper to send out invites. It ended up in the national tabloid papers. Science teacher at my high school talked to a stuffed squirrel and herself, Alec. She was committed later in the semester. Kept a Peon book in her library. I just randomly picked a book and it happened to be the Pinot, so opened it and yeah, I refused to stand up while I was stiff and she never got caught with it and I didn't bother telling. Because I came back to it a few times, and this was in 9th grade. Honestly, could have been some past student who slipped in there as a lark. My cousin once replaced one of his teacher's VHSs with a 90s Pinot. I was dancing for no particular reason. The teacher teaching the class saw me. She scolded me and told me to stand in the corner. I was fine with the punishment, because I knew it was my fault. Midway through the lecture, she just came at me and started dancing just like I was, trying to mock me. The class started laughing, and so did I. Then she continued to dance for a good 5 seconds and said, "I can dance better than you." In chemistry, my teacher always tried to sound smart. She would give weird names to an ordinary object. A toothpick became a scientific wooden dowel and a container became a substance holder, etc. Really stupid names. Cracked up all up though. Was quite annoying when we had to recall all of her terms for the exam though. Gonna repost this list from a comment of mine from a few weeks ago. Too lazy to write it again. Reasons myself and my classmates were going to hell according to my grade 1 teacher, circa 04, 05. Getting temporary tattoos. Wanting to wear our Halloween costumes to school. Watching SpongeBob. Reading anything with magic that wasn't explicitly ordained by God. Missing church, because I was sick. Wanting to be a paleontologist when I grew up. Owning Pokemon cards. Being a boy with pierced ears. Not kneeling for morning prayer. It was a Christian school, but no other teacher wanted us to kneel. Wearing jeans on Sunday. Wearing pants with more than the standard number of pockets. Wearing skirts that were too short. Wearing any shirt without sleeves. Playing with the opposite gender at recess. Not keeping out cubbies, desks organized. Being better at a computer game than everyone else, because I had the game at home. She thought I was cheating. Keep in mind we were all around 6 or 7 years old at the time. Also honorable mention to the 3rd grade teacher who tried to teach us evolution like it was Pokemon in order to get a bunch of 8, 9-year-old students to completely disregard all scientists as idiots. And something I did for an unfortunately large number of years. A long-standing substitute teacher was brought in, because one of the science teachers was on maternity leave, but he was forced to leave just before the end of the school year. I didn't even know why until long after I graduated. The incident happened when I was in 4th year, found out when I was long gone. But he was teaching my little sister's 1st year class one day when he demonstrated the proper method on how to commit suicide by hanging, describing the full process from an academic viewpoint. And I know what you're thinking. Well, it's a bit morbid to describe, especially to 11-year-olds. He taught them how to tie a noose out of a rope. Called me a parasite in front of everyone, and since she always criticized me, I had to laugh it off. A math teacher in my high school had a relationship with a 16-year-old. It was gross. Yes, he was fired and decharged. A member of the faculty in our college messaged me on TikTok. LOL. Called me into his office as I was passing by, and proceeded to tell the other teacher in there that he had named his newborn daughter after me. I never bothered finding out if that was true, but it creeped the hell out of me. Not me, but a friend. In 7th grade, the science teacher asked her if she was wearing a thong, because he didn't see a panty line. Mr. Solano, I probably won't be able to forget that name. My 8th grade teacher told us the cure for cancer was salt, and the government was hiding it to make money. I live in Canada, so the government would be losing money by doing this. She made us write letters to the government about it for an assignment. This was more weird than crazy, I think, but here you go. My friend and I were, and still are, very immature. In the 8th grade, if she had nothing else to say to someone when arguing, she'd just yell, "Suck my dong." One time, she said it particularly loud in our biology class, and our teacher heard it. Our teacher just nonchalantly said, "Well, in order for that to happen, you would have to strap something on first." She would also go on tangents about her religion and the fact she was a vegetarian. She was pretty rad, honestly. Pretended to have cancer and stole $30K, then disappeared. Told us that maybe in a few years we can meet up in a pub and have a beer together. I wasn't in class at the time, but our history teacher in middle school, who is now fired for showing peeing in class, taught the 7th graders how to roll a blunt. Somehow, no one told any other teachers or the principal about it. Take a picture of me crying with my test and putting it all over the school's Facebook and sending it to my mom. Lost her mind at some students calling them racist, because they read the Daily Mail and supported Brexit edit, spelling. A teacher in my school, I was like 12 years old or something. He was angry and threw a scissor at my classmate's chest. The sharp part didn't hit, so he were lucky. Scary indeed. I had an earth science teacher in high school that once called everyone parents cause we was behind on her work. We all was behind, because she gave us too much classwork and homework. We got more than all other classes combined. She also said she'd give the entire class, but one student detention just because he was passing. One of my teachers bullied a kid for years until there was this huge fight at the school, and one of the teacher's old classmates from when he was in school straight up murdered him and with his dying breath confessed that he only bullied the first kid because he had been in love with the kid's mom. Then when the kid grew up he named his son after the teacher that bullied him.